The next bride I'd like to talk about is Esther. I'm going to read from Esther 2. I think most of you know the story. So it came about when the command and decree of the king were heard, and many of the young ladies were gathered to the citadel of Susa into the custody of Haggai, that Esther was taken to the king's palace into the custody of Haggai, who was in charge of the women. Now the young lady pleased him and found favor with him. So listen, he quickly provided her with cosmetics and food. He gave her 7 choice maids from the king's palace and transferred her and her maids to the best place in the harem. Esther did not make known her people or her kindred, for Mordecai had instructed her that she should not make them known. And every day Mordecai walked back and forth in front of the court of the harem to learn how Esther was and how she fared. Now when the turn of each young lady came to go in to King Ahasuerus, after the end of her 12 months under the regulations for the women, for the days of their beautification were completed as follows: 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with spices and the cosmetics for women. The young lady would go into the king in this way. Anything that she desired was given her to take with her from the harem to the king's palace. In the evening she would go in, and in the morning she would return to the second harem, to the custody of Shashgaz, the king's eunuch who was in charge of the concubines. She would not again go in to the king unless the king delighted in her, and she was summoned by name. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter, came to go into the king, she did not request anything except what Haggai, the king's eunuch, who was in charge of the women, had advised. So you see in this story, we know that Esther was then chosen as queen. And then when Esther discovered that her lineage was going to be destroyed, she went before the king, and he extended his scepter and said, "Come to me, Esther," which was an amazing, amazing thing because of the acceptance of the king. And why was that? Because she listened to Haggai, and she prepared herself with the myrrh and with the spices, and she listened to what he said, and he guided her through this process so that when she went with the king, she took with her only the things that Haggai knew the king would like. In all of these stories, there is a type of Holy Spirit. In Rebecca's instance, there was the servant who listened to Abraham, and he came and he followed the instruction and found the woman, and then he brought her back to Isaac, right? In the story of Ruth, there's Naomi. Naomi instructed Ruth, just like Holy Spirit instructs us now. And Ruth paid attention, and she prepared herself. And then she was united with Boaz. And then, of course, Esther. She listened to Gehazi, the servant of the king, and did all the things that he asked. And so Holy Spirit inside of Gehazi made her ready. But she had to do it. She was given the cosmetics. She had to apply them. She was given the spices. She had to apply them. She was given all the things that she needed, and she was given the guidance that she needed so that she would be ready. And that is how God is getting us ready for when we are united with him.